Hey out there, legal warriors. In this video, I'm going to cover how you can avoid getting charged with a DUI for taking your own prescribed medication. Yes, that's right. In Washington State, you can get a DUI even if you haven't consumed alcohol, even if you're on your own doctor-prescribed medication and you're taking it properly. If you want to learn how to avoid this or learn about this area of the law, stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Linwood, Washington. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington State for more than 25 years, and I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it. More people get the help they need. Now, as always, I'm just going to jump right into it. Lance, how is it that I could possibly be charged with a crime if I'm just taking my own prescribed medication, my antidepressants, my ADHD medication, my stuff that I take for my pain, right? You know, my doctor tells me what I should take. How is it that the government can accuse me of a crime for doing what the government-sanctioned doctor says I should take? Well, it's because of the way the law is written and the way the legislature thinks about DUI. Now remember, DUI is defined in Washington State under Revised Code of Washington, RCW 46.61.502. And that says there's two ways to commit a DUI. One is the per se statute. That means we have a breath test of .08 or higher for adults within 2 hours of driving, or a blood result showing the same, or in a blood draw marijuana of 5 nanograms or more. That's the per se statute. We're guilty in and of itself if the government can show that. It doesn't matter if we were driving perfectly or not. Now let's say they don't have that. They don't have a breath test. They don't have a blood draw. Or let's say we're on some other type of drug. Well, that's when the under the influence part of the statute comes in. It says we're also guilty of DUI if we drive while we're under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And notice it doesn't say non-prescribed drugs, it says drugs. How do we define under the influence in Washington State? Well, the main way it's defined is a person's ability to drive affected in any appreciable degree. Any is a pretty broad word, isn't it? It doesn't say it makes your driving worse. It just says it's affected in any way that we can see or appreciate or claim. So what happens? How do we avoid getting charged with a DUI when we haven't been consuming alcohol or non-prescribed drugs? Well, let's think about a traffic stop. You're driving around, it's shooting fish in a barrel time, it's 1 a.m., the officers automatically think everyone on the road at 1 a.m. is drunk, right? Could be right. And you get pulled over, the officer comes up to your car, they start talking to you, and they don't really smell any alcohol, but, you know, they're looking for a DUI, so they start asking you questions about, what type of medication are you on? Are you on any medication? And you think, yeah, I'm going to be cooperative. I'm on a muscle relaxer. I'm on a painkiller. I take this or that for things. And now the officer starts to build their case of, hey, I think that you're under the influence based upon that bad driving that I saw, that weaving within your lane. Maybe you checked your phone. Maybe they did something you didn't like. And now they ask you out of the car. So what happens when we get out of the car? Well, they say, oh, you leaned on the car for balance when you got out. I mean, you probably just get out of the car, right? I mean, especially old people like me, I'm going to lean on the car regardless when I get out. They're going to say that you talk too fast, or you talk too slow, or that you mumbled your words. And if you watch my videos, I tend to mumble a fair amount. So I guess I'm in trouble if I get pulled over by an officer. But what's the main thing they're going to have us do then? They're going to have us do standardized field sobriety tests. And if you're a viewer of this channel, you should never do those. At least I wouldn't, because there's no way somebody's going to pass a standardized field sobriety test because they're subjective. Oftentimes they're misinstructed. They're not done in the right location. They're done under a high amount of pressure. We don't even know what we're being scored on as a person participating in the test. And there's no one looking over that officer's shoulder actually, validating what they think they see, right? Oh, you swayed. Oh, you'd missed your foot by this much. Oh, you did this or that wrong. All they're doing is justifying their arrest and saying, hey, if you can't do the field sobriety test, which I'm going to make sure you can't do if I'm the officer because I'm going to fail you because it's all subjective, then you must have your ability to drive affected. Because remember, I pulled you over for some type of reason. I pulled you over because the driving that I observed the driver do gave a reason for the stop according to what the officer's going to write in the reports. So what happens next? Well, you're probably going to take your portable breath test. In this hypothetical, you're going to blow a 0, right? We're going to blow a 0. That means, hey, you must be under the influence of something else. Well, now they're going to take you to the police station. They're going to ask you the 30-plus DUI interview questions. What do we know about the DUI interview questions? They're not there to help you, right? They're there to cut off your defenses. And also try to show that you're not in your right mind. How do they cut off your defenses? Well, how many hours of sleep did you have last night? Oh, I had 8 hours. Well, I guess you must not be tired then. Anything physically wrong with you? No, I feel okay. Well, great. The field tests aren't because of a bum knee. It's because of all the medication you're on. Are you under the care of a doctor or a dentist? Oh, yeah, I am. Okay. And what type of prescriptions are you on? Well, you just rattle them off because you're being honest. You know, it's not illegal to take your own prescribed medication. In this case, the officer's going to make it illegal for you to do that based upon the case the officer's building. They're going to try to show that you're sort of out of touch with time and place. Without looking, what time do you think it is? Well, you might be off with what time it is. Who knows how long this is going to take? You're under a lot of pressure, and when you get that time wrong, well, it must be because of your medication. They're going to ask question after question. If they have a lot of resources at this police agency, then they're going to bring in someone called a DRE. They'll call them a drug recognition expert. We use different words in our line of work. We might say a drug recognition evaluator, but they're going to do a bunch of different things, and typically speaking, we don't want to agree to do these things. These are all voluntary, but they're going to take your pulse, and they're going to see if your eyes dilate, and they're going to put you in a dark room, turn the lights off and on. They're going to have you redo field sobriety tests in a controlled environment, and then guess what? Whatever you claim that you've taken, they're going to say, yep, I find that you're affected in the same way consistent with whatever that stimulant does, whatever that depressant does, based upon what you've said you've taken. Now they're going to ask for consent for a blood draw, and if you don't give consent, they're going to use all that stuff they built up to try to get a search warrant for a blood draw, and now stuff is going to come back a lot later, and we're going to see possibly what's in your blood, a lot of stuff they don't test for. So I went over a lot of things here, how they're going to do it. So how do we avoid it? Well, remember, we have the right to remain silent. We don't need to answer their question about what prescribed medication that you're on, because that's between you and your doctor. It's none of the government's business. We don't have to tell them anything. Also, with those 30-plus DUI interview questions, we don't have to answer those, right? We don't need to cut off our defenses and give them false evidence that we're affected by things. And most importantly, we don't have to do those field sobriety tests. Those field sobriety tests will never set you free. A field sobriety test is only there to give them, in my opinion, fake ammunition to try to justify the arrest and all the case law that's out there that is, of course, against people that are driving under the influence. And that makes sense. We should not be driving under the influence, but in this hypothetical, we're not. We have no alcohol, we have no marijuana, we're on a prescribed medication, and an officer is trying to build a case. And those innocent answers that we give the police about what our doctor has told us to do is what they're going to use against us, along with all the rest of the hocus pocus to build a case against us. So how does a defense attorney handle this? Let's say you went through this, you told the officer what you were on, the blood draw comes back like a year later, and now the defense attorney has the case. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to try to look at, usually use a physician desk reference or something like that to try to see how much of each medication that you were prescribed is in your blood, and we're going to hopefully try to show the prosecutor there are therapeutic levels. You're taking the medication as prescribed. And while that's not a defense to the case, that's not a statutory defense, taking the medication as prescribed, it does hopefully, with a reasonable human prosecutor, go to show that, hey, perhaps you shouldn't be punished since you weren't being irresponsible in any way that was actually true in the world. Now, yes, there are medications you shouldn't drive on if you take as prescribed, like trazodone or certain types of things can make us sleepy. You read the labels, don't operate heavy machinery. This is not carte blanche that we can just drive under the influence, but for the most part, when I see a case with someone on prescribed medication, I don't see evidence of swerving all over the road or rear-ending another vehicle. I see an officer trying to build a case because they pulled someone over at the witching hour when they're looking for that DUI, and now they're turning an innocent driver into a guilty driver when the driver is giving honest and what they think are innocent answers to the questions that is now building a case against them, which in my opinion often is not a fair or accurate case. So, what have we learned? We've learned that, yes, driving on prescribed medications can get us be found guilty of a DUI if the authorities believe and can show their ability to drive is affected by whatever we took. They can bring in the state toxicologist to testify. We can get our own experts, but it's best to avoid this altogether by just zipping our lips. We don't need to talk about any of that. The state toxicologist tests for blood, doesn't test everything in the world anyway, and if they don't know, what medication you're on, they may not go that far to begin with. They may just think they've got it wrong. So, I hope you found that useful. If so, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it. More people get the help they need. More importantly, if you have a legal matter, criminal matter in Washington State, feel free to reach out to my firm. We've been doing this for more than 25 years. So if we get on board, we'll listen to what happened, we'll identify a way forward, and we'll be there for you. Thank you.